Hello, hello. Welcome to class. I'm very excited about this set of lessons. You will be receiving information and attunement, of course, on a couple of, let's call it three primary topics. We're going to review the subconscious mind and what this aspect of our clients, as well as ourselves, how it functions. And we're going to look at it client-centered to see how you are helping your clients by shifting their beliefs, by shifting their patterns, and shifting that which is being held in the subconscious mind, because that is actually why everyone comes to us for help, whether it is for an intuitive reading, if it's for energy healing, or if we're going to guide them in something like hypnosis or meditation. And basically, when we need help, when we want to change something, it's all about the subconscious mind. We're also going to look at some charts as examples to see how to service the subconscious mind through their suggestibility. And this is an expansion of the lesson we had previously on the looking at human design and the suggestibility, whether it is literal or inferred. We looked at simply just the aspect of open or defined, I should say undefined or defined centers. And we're going to just continue that conversation, that part of it. Then we're going to talk about soul contracts. Now, the soul contracts piece, you can take in yourself for yourself. And also at the same time, since you are a practitioner, you might be thinking about how you would use this as a service. I'm going to give that to you for you in your own development today. But again, you can do that secondary layer of how you'll be able to use this. And then we're going to have a journey, a soul contract reviewal journey. Now, again, in that, we're servicing you. So you're invited to let go and consider something that you would like to look at the contract of. And I'll talk about that before we actually start the journey. But this is also going to be an example of everything we're talking about today as a service you can provide to your clients. And also, I'm going to demonstrate in that how I am working with suggestibility by actually delivering a hypnosis. Okay? That's what we have in store. Get excited. Well, excited, relaxed, calm, curious. Let's activate all of those things in whatever way they service you. So we're going to get into it now. Let's begin by activating your subconscious mind. This is a lesson on how to work with the subconscious mind. So I want to invite you to receive this through that subconscious mind input. And the way that we receive that is we let it come to us, wash over us, and through us. And so for this lesson, I may be using my calmer voice that does induce the activation of the subconscious mind. And so for now, you can take a moment here. And if you would like to allow your eyes to close, and take one of those nice, soothing, deep breaths. Allowing yourself to settle into this space, to receive. The subconscious mind is that aspect of your psyche, of your energy, that is correlated to your soma, and that means your body and your felt sense. It is correlated to emotions, and it is in your psyche or in your total mind like the feminine aspect of you. Now, it is at least 80% of your overall mind. Sometimes, or by some perspectives, it may even be as much as 95%. And so as you're contemplating this, and if your eyes are still closed, that would be great. And just feel the weight beneath you. And if you want to take another one of those breaths, and on the exhale, allow yourself to become more grounded. And what grounding is being here and now. And as the word may imply, being connected, feeling your connection to the earth, to this here now. If you want to grow those energetic roots into the earth and enhance the comforting feeling of this present here now. Let the earth hold you, of course, as she does, for you are bonded in the resonant frequency of gravity, which is a physical law. And of course, we can feel the spiritual law of gravity, connection. And as you're connecting to the earth now, I want to invite you to anchor into your heart. And so draw your awareness, if it is at the earth, draw it up through your body and into your heart. And now allow yourself to receive that as above frequency, if it is like that column of light and awareness down from above. You can let that move all the way through you, past your feet, and then once again dropping into the heart. So it's as if you're drawing up from the earth and down from the universe, bypassing the mind and anchoring into the heart. And the mind is a passenger for this. And you might consider that you are thinking and receiving with your heart and with your soma, for it is the subconscious mind correlated to the emotions, correlated to the body below the neck. Of course, it is not bound by physical matter, but as it concerns our physical experience, it is correlated to the body below the neck. And so just anchoring into this part of you to receive, and yes, ultimately anchoring with the heart for hearing, seeing, and you might even consider that you are thinking in through your heart center. And today we are learning how to gently guide our clients as well as ourselves into a relationship with the subconscious mind where beliefs live and transformation occurs. And now if you would like to take another one of those cleansing breaths, and feel free to open your eyes if you would like, or you can gently stay in this state as we review the subconscious mind and beliefs. As the word would suggest, subconscious, this is the subliminal, the below the surface mind processing. It is non-logical, it is creative, it is feeling, and it is very impressionable. It is what governs 80 to 95% of our behavior. Now, our subconscious mind is a blank slate, as every aspect of the being is a blank slate with just tendencies when we are born. From 0 to 8, this is when the formational time is activated. And this means that things that are coming into our awareness are mapped in the subconscious mind just simply as how to respond for survival. And so you might say that we're all, to some degree, still thinking from that place of being 0 to 8 years old. Now we compound the formation that happens during this period. We modernize and we mature certain beliefs that are set in the subconscious mind between 0 and 8. And so it may seem quite adult, a belief that actually was begun at age 3, because we have recolored it and recolored it. And now, of course, there continues to be beliefs that are created all throughout the life. But there is a deep formation that occurs from 0 to 8. Belief structures live here in the subconscious mind, in this sublimated space, often installed through repetition. It is installed through just the senses perceiving. And it can get set in place by heightened emotional experiences or heightened sensorial experiences. Now that can be good or bad, positive or negative. And actually sometimes really heightened experience that we consider positive can actually create a sense of trauma. Now let's contextualize and define trauma. Trauma, there is a major spectrum of very small t trauma to a capital T trauma. And for the sake of our learning, let's recall, remember, or contextualize trauma as a moment in which the senses receive an abundance of information that cannot be processed all at once. So you could imagine that even something that is positive, whether it is a positive experience or an experience that is intended to be positive, could have so much sensorial input that it cannot be processed in one single moment. And so there's a positive unfolding of that where we might be thinking about it, reflecting on something. And then, of course, when there is something that comes to the senses, now the senses are of physical, as you might imply, or infer, I should say, you might infer that I mean physical senses, but it's also emotional. And it is all very emotionally charged when we are receiving a new belief and it is being formed within us. And then we also have this sense of cultural inheritance, our ancestral implications that come forward to us. This is because the family of origin are behaving in certain patterns. And the behaviors can be very, very subtle. And all of this is formed in the subconscious mind. Now, let's emphasize that all healing work, whether we're giving intuitive guidance, we're having energetic transformations, all of this is occurring through the subconscious mind. Even as we work with our spirit guides or with angels, with our superconscious, that level of the soul, this shift and transformation is happening within the subconscious mind in order for it to be activated in physical living. So the subconscious mind you might think of as the operating system. It's running behind the scenes. We may consciously have a new thought or belief that we would like to change or shift, but if it isn't already existing in the subconscious mind, then it will be booted out. And we have a whole visual demonstration of this that you may have seen before. And so I'm just reminding you of that, and I will give it to you again in a subsequent lesson. Now, how do we access the subconscious mind? Because it is being protected, if you will, because it holds those beliefs that keep us safe, we do need to relax the critical mind layer, which is keeping our subconscious mind safe. So we've done that in this session. As you continue to stay relaxed and open, that is a way that you're in a semi-state of hypnosis or meditation, a daydreamy state. That is accessing the subconscious mind. Also, as we have an emotional experience occurring, we could even activate our positive emotional response in any moment and allow our subconscious mind to become open and available. Now, as it concerns our clients come to us for whichever service they may. We can generalize for this point and let you just contemplate what other kinds of services you offer: energy healing, intuitive guidance, meditation, any of the counseling, intuitive coaching. And our clients come to us with some form of feeling stuck, having a pattern, not knowing how to shift or change something, not knowing how to move forward. That's another version of feeling stuck. Maybe even it's language of I feel stuck, I am blocked, I can't break this pattern. I don't know why I sabotage myself. Or I'm having some issues moving through this grief or this pain. At any rate, there is a signaling that is occurring of a subconscious belief or a subconscious pattern that would like to be updated, nurtured, shifted, supported. And these are not just complaints. This is the inner emotional being of the subconscious asking for new instructions, new coding, asking to be recalibrated. And so as a practitioner, as a spiritual practitioner, as someone who helps others with their personal and spiritual development, we are facilitating subconscious change. As an intuitive reader or intuitive coach, we can reflect on the subconscious beliefs through the intuitive mirroring. Now, as we set the intention to shift into intuitive receiving of their guides, from their higher self, from their soul, we understand, and Spirit understands, that this is going to be information through maybe evidences or through stories and metaphors that will help the subconscious mind to move energy, reconfigure a belief, or reconfigure a pattern. So, as your client is asking, how can I move past fill in the blank? And this is offered to Spirit. You open yourself up as that clear channel, and the information that is coming through, it does come through you as a filter. And so you can allow the colors and the symbols and the evidences to flow through you. Understand that it is going directly into their subconscious. And especially if they are feeling that sense of still being stuck, invite them to ground, invite them to breathe, and work with them to be able to receive in their subconscious being aspect that which is being offered through Spirit. So if there is a sense of being able to activate a positive emotional response, evidences tend to do that because they feel seen. This is how we are working with the subconscious mind with our clients as an intuitive reader or an intuitive coach. As an energy healer, we are shifting energetic frequencies, holding beliefs, old beliefs, so that they can transform into new beliefs. We have many different modalities that we'll be going over that are in the area of energy healing. Of course, intuitive reading is energy healing. But if it's something to the effect of doing parts work, which we will discuss, parts work where we find an aspect of either our energy body that seems like it's in our physical body or in our auric field, and there is a picture or a sense of what it would look like or what it might say. And then in that is something that is being held in the subconscious, and we let it come up, and we let Spirit guide how this can be shifted into a positive pattern, or to learn what needs to be learned in order for it to be released and restored to something that is more congruent with who they are now. We use intention and resonance to suggest new patterns, however it is that we are delivering them through our energy healing. With meditation and hypnosis guidance, we are leading clients into a very receptive state. We induce them into trance states, or perhaps states that are more like what we are experiencing for this lesson, more of that daydreamy state. And I would encourage you to set up your intuitive guidance, counseling, and coaching sessions with some kind of shift into that. So we talk about the invocation, and I will share that next. So you may start out with a session that is more of the coaching or reading, and then put it in much more deeply with your energy healing or your meditation or hypnosis. And so that would be something that we deepen them into an even more receptive state. And then we can use suggestions in the sense of images that we are presenting. If it is an imagery journey of moving on the beach and finding a positive way to interact there, just as an example. Or we are allowing those positive suggestions that we often think of as affirmations to be deposited into them, speaking to their subconscious mind in the sense of letting them know, for example, it is safe to see things differently. Or, I choose to align with the truth of who I am. Or, each and every day, I am becoming more and more confident in my true self. And then if you are guiding an invocation, which you might do at the beginning, middle, or the end of any session of any kind, we would use that spoken intentional language to set the vibrational tone, set the vibrational space. And then we can call in guides or higher self. And we can pre-code the subconscious mind at the beginning to invite clarity and to set the space for release. All of this is working with the subconscious mind. And so this is how we open up for the client to be able to receive deeply the shifts. We set the coherent space, and we often ground them in the moment so that they can find that coherence with the heart, as we did at the top of this lesson. We have an intention. The client will often bring that. I would like to shift this pattern. I would like to have more or less of this or that. There's the intention. We reflect on the limiting belief with them in whether we're presenting it to spirit to receive the evidences or the shifts, or we look at the energy, or we create a space to become deeply receptive to that which they would prefer to experience. And then we offer that safe and clear alternative as the belief or energy that will subset out what has already been there that is ready to be released. We can anchor this in with symbols, with sensations, with breath, simply anchoring in the state of that which has been preferred coming through the session. And then we close and we reinforce that which is good, positive, and true for our client, offering that suggestion that it will continue to unfold and settle in and shift and change within. Now, we are not here to fix the subconscious. We are here to partner with it, speak with it in love and consideration and contemplation and compassion. The subconscious responds to safety. It responds to repetition, and it responds to coherence and resonance. And so we can invite ourselves or our clients to reflect. What beliefs am I ready to help myself or my clients to shift, to repattern? And how may I start to speak and hold space for this shift and change? There's an overview of how you are working with the subconscious aspect of yourself and your clients for those profound transformations. Now we're going to talk about suggestibility. And suggestibility is the language that your client's subconscious mind is speaking, whether it is how they, in a general way, their natural suggestibility makes them receptive and open to communicate with that subconscious aspect of themselves. Again, I like to say they're the special language that their subconscious mind can speak with you. And so we have like a sort of default, a nature, but there's also nurture, meaning that there is conditioning. And conditioning, again, isn't necessarily always negative. We're partnering with the subconscious mind through the language of their suggestibility. As a recap, we talked about how the human design chart can show us the natural, if you will, suggestibility type. And it might be the overarching, you might say the overarching suggestibility type that this person has. The human design chart with just the undefined or defined centers will show us how they process information, either very quickly and immediately or with a slower processing. And that neither is good or bad, or there's light and shadow to both, we could say. Now, when we look at that human design chart, we see that the defined centers are more of a processing, has more of a time process sort of aspect to it. And this doesn't mean that they're slow. In fact, it means that they have a lot of inner strength. Naturally, they have that defined sense of how their energy flows for that subject concerning the center. Then we have the undefined centers, which are very impressionable, very immediately and literally able to receive information with very minimal processing. Now, on the other hand, when there is conditioning, whether it is conscious or unconscious conditioning, there can be an inverted aspect to that, so that the defined centers could become very immediate and hyperactive, or the undefined centers could put up a lot of buffers or blocks. So it does have this sense of having a slower processing. And we work with where we are that day and that moment. But we can get a snapshot of it as to how our clients might naturally, or maybe we say fundamentally, operate. And either way will work just beautifully for us. Now, the other aspect to it, I say we look at the chart, we see what might be there naturally. The second part of it is we listen. And that's actually even more important when our client shows up. We listen to how they're presenting that day. And we might see, oh, they're presenting a little more inferentially. Inference is taking that processing time. And they want to be dealt with in a gentle way, with gentle suggestions that they can take into themselves and decide on their own. And they may have, their chart may actually look like, well, they would be otherwise highly literal. Most of their offering would be very literal. But if they come in with a certain concern, they may be a little more slower in the processing, having that inverted sense. So then when we get into the session, we might actually uncover as we're digging into what is being changed and shifted, they may actually uncover in that session more of their natural suggestibility type. And so you might be able to get a little bit more literal. So let's be clear what the special languaging is. For inferential, where there is defined centers, a little more processing, there is the sense of offering without suggesting immediately. So I'm actually going to start with the literal one, which is very direct and easy to comprehend. Literal, literally offered affirmation, if I were to do my own affirmation about confidence, would be, I am confident. Each day, I am more and more confident. Now, if I were facilitating a client who was more open to that literal input, then I would say, each day you are more and more confident, and you are more confident now. That's very literal, very immediate. Of course, I'm saying now, and I'm saying you are. There's no buffer. Now, if I were working with someone who needed to receive things more inferentially for confidence, I would offer it to them to consider by language such as, and now you are finding that you have become more curious about your development in your consciousness. You are able to consider how your confidence is growing each and every day. And I wonder if you could notice where your confident spark is within you in certain moments. So I'll give you some keys to the inference. I'm saying you can consider. I wonder how. It says, I wonder how. It actually is suggesting to them for them to wonder how. So each and every day, you're getting closer to that sense of confidence. You see how many buffers I put in there instead of you are confident. Each day, you can find yourself, there's a buffer, getting closer, another buffer, to becoming more, there's a buffer, confident. Lots of little buffers. Everyone knows that confidence is a natural progression with our personal development. That was a really great inferential suggestion. You probably didn't even know that I was making that suggestion when I said everyone knows. That sparks that processing of the inferential kind of defined center. Oh, everyone knows this? Well, I would like to know it then too. And I must know it then. There's a sense of them getting to choose it all on their own. That's what we have going on. Now, I want to let you know, as we're going to look up some charts so that I can give you some more examples of this. I want to let you know that inference works for everyone, whereas literal may not work for that inferential input. Inference works for everyone. So if you were a person who was highly literal, able to receive the literal input, then you could say, you are confident. And they go, oh, I can feel how I am confident. I'm activating that I am confident. And it also works for them to say each and every day, you're considering and noticing how confidence is becoming more a part of who you are easily. Lots of little, that works on that literal input as well. On the other hand, if a person is in their processing, they're like, I'm going to process. And I say, you are confident. It's like it comes up against a wall. It's like, what do you mean I'm confident? That's why I'm here in this session, as I'm not confident. You see? So then this often sparks the question of, well, why wouldn't we always just use inference? Well, The reason is because that literal receptivity is so immediate and so fast and feels very much like home. And even though inference works for a person who is, now say a person or an input, because there's aspects of ourselves that are more literal than others, right? As we see in the chart. For that literal input, if we have too much inference, too much of that buffering, I don't know, it's almost like they could get bored. Give me the dope. Give me the medicine right now. I am confident. That's what I want to hear. So inference works for everyone. And so when you're leading a group and it isn't tailored to an individual, you can favor inference. But that doesn't mean leave out literal suggestions or literal guidance. Because even if you have a person who is highly inferential naturally, they still have some literal. So let's say I have a person who's highly inferential, and throughout the session, they're actually becoming a little more receptive, a little more open, and we're getting access to that more immediate receptivity, that which is literal. So even if I had a person who's highly inferential, whether naturally or because of the defense, the inversion of the moment, then I still can slip in one or two or three of those literal ways of speaking to their subconscious mind. Because your subconscious mind is a mosaic of receptivity. Your suggestibility is a mosaic of types of ways that you receive. So keep that in your awareness as we look at these charts that will help us to get a little bit more insight on how to work with someone's suggestibility. I have these charts. They're people I've actually worked with. There's no one who is in this class. They are or ever going to be in this class. And I've also put in some information to actually obscure all of the identity about this person. Now, and actually I'm trying to even remember who it is that I'm working with here. So here we have a 5-1 emotional manifesting generator. Now, that aspect for this lesson, we're not going to take into consideration profile or aura type or even their authority. Not for now. Right now, we're just cracking open this how to speak the language of someone's subconscious mind with their suggestibility of either inferential or literal. So now here's the thing that we haven't really talked about yet. We've talked about the centers, and we know we've examined what each of the centers' subjects, if you will, the dimensions of each of the centers is dealing with. Like the solar plexus is dealing with emotional energy, the dimension of the emotion, receiving, processing, and also delivering emotions. It's the input and the output and the processor. So we know that we have, the defined centers are more of the inferential, the personal processing, slower compared to literal. Now, on the other hand, there's sometimes a little more waiting going on as someone comes in the session. So what I mean by waiting, the weight, the heaviness, or how much is being processed at that time. So we have here this person. If this were my client, I see that the emotional center is defined. So I would assume that, naturally speaking, this person can receive emotional information, emotional guidance with a little more collaboration, where I would say each and every day you are finding yourself becoming more and more confident. Each and every day you are working toward the choice to call up your inner strength. You see, there's some buffers that I'm putting in there. That would be the emotional, and especially if this person was coming to me with an issue that had to do with an emotional charge. Now, most things are when they come to us, so you would say that overall, the emotional center holds a lot of weight of being either inferential or literal. It does. However, so do the high centers here, the crown and the ajna, the head and the ajna. They also hold a lot of weight because that makes up the mind. So this person's mind functions pretty literally. And there are some other aspects that show me that their mind functions pretty literally. It has to do with the arrows that are around the head there, but we'll leave that for another time. So what's interesting is that this person can receive some languaging pretty literally, and then if it's going to become quite emotional, then I might need to shift it with a little bit more of the softening. So let's take an example that is not just confidence. And so this person, let's say they came to a session because they would like to welcome in more abundance and more prosperity, and would like to have more of a work-life balance. So what we see here is that that's of course emotional, because everything is, but we're actually emphasizing something that has a lot to do with willpower for this person. And their willpower is governed by this center that's the small one, the small triangle on the right, that little one that has, it's undefined for this person. It has two gates that are defined in it, and it's kind of sitting there between the identity center and the solar plexus. That is the heart will center. So they're asking for more abundance, and we're like, okay. This center is concerned with abundance. It's one of the centers concerned with abundance and finances. It's also, as this person, as we are imagining they want a work-life balance, it's also concerned with will and willpower. So are they exerting too much willpower in their work so that they aren't having the balance? So then we know that their ego, their willpower, is able to receive some literal suggestions. Their mind can receive literal suggestions, and this center is able to receive some literal suggestions. So as we say to this client, and you are feeling more abundant, and you give yourself permission to call up abundance. That's pretty. There's a little inference there with give yourself permission, but call up abundance is really literal. So the reason I would put give yourself permission is because we're considering the emotional center too. The emotional center is more inferential. So then you might then, as we're tapping into the work-life balance, because the life is more of that home life, probably the relationships, maybe the primary partnership, maybe their children, and that's going to have a lot more emotional quality to it. So as you welcome in more abundance, very literal, you'll find that it's easier to settle into your balance of home and love and relationships, very emotional and very inferential, you see? So that's what I would look at here now. Let's look at another one. Here, I'll pull up this one. Okay, this person has a lot of definition, right? So a lot of inference. So one thing that can happen with the inference is that we receive some information and then we process, and sometimes on the shadow aspect of a defined center is we loop inside that. I'm thinking about my own thoughts and thinking about what I'm thinking about, what I'm thinking about, what I'm thinking about with that mind that is defined up there. And so we might need to gently offer suggestions with a lot of guidance, because here's what happens if we get too literal, too direct with a person who's in that frame of needing to really, they're looping a bit in their own thoughts. They're actually really suggestible to themselves. If I offer something too literal to this person, they go, yeah, well, but... It's the yabbits, right? We don't want to go down the yabbits holes. So what's interesting, just as an overview, is this person has a lot of definition and then this throat center completely undefined. So if I just stood back at this, never having worked with this person, I go, this person is highly suggestible to themselves, has a lot of processing going on, and then it's spilling all out of their throat, or they're feeling a lot of pressure in their expression to either stop expressing themselves or express themselves too much, because all of that energy, there's a lot of just pressure around the throat. So keep that in mind too. When we have a lot of definition around something that's undefined, it's like there's a lot of pressure on that. Pressure is not exactly the right word, but it's sort of like that. The contrary is also true. And I'll show you this chart where this person has a lot of openness and then just these two centers that are defined. So there's actually a lot of so to speak, pressure on the literal and open aspect of this person on their defined centers. And their defined centers are feeling very pressured in their processing. So this person, you would look at this person and say, oh, they're highly literal. Undefined mind, undefined emotional center, a lot of undefinition, if you will. And I would say that's true. Now, recalling how this client showed up this day, this person showed up with having had some major life transitions just happened the week before. Just happened. So this person was really, I mean, tired and exhausted emotionally and in a state of needing to feel protected. So with protection, what comes into play here is a little more processing, a little more buffering. So I gently guided this person into with a lot of inferential. Well, it probably is time for you to consider more self-care. I remember that's actually what we talked a lot about, because this person in a way was having this sense of, I need to change right now and be confident. And they're having some major life transitions, like the biggest ones you can imagine happening right now. Maybe it's time for more self-care. And as I've witnessed by my sensory acuity, just seeing this person starting to relax into it and even feel some emotional release. Yes, you're right. I'm very tired. Then when I got this person into hypnosis, then I was able to actually get a little bit more literal with, and you are servicing yourself with your self-care even more. And that worked for them. So you see, along this person showed up more inferential, more protected, even though that is seemingly contrary to their natural suggestibility. But I worked with the language as it wanted to be spoken that day. And then when I got into the session, I found that receptivity that was more immediate, more literal, and then we delivered it that way. And now you might think, well, this person, with their highly inferential, when do we ever get literal? But because there is that one center that is completely open, I also get into that session very similarly. We get in there and at some point you can feel the energy shift, or you see the energy shift, both. And then you can offer that literal, that really direct one. And it actually creates like this spark of, yes. And it feels so satisfying to the person. So it's all in the languaging, and it's in the calibrating of their energy. I have one more chart here. Did we look at this one? We did. This one. Okay, so this one's somewhere in between, right? We've got 4 defined centers, and so then that would leave 5 undefined centers. So it's almost like, well, this person might be a bit of a somnambulist, and you know what? They are. Remembering somnambulist has kind of like a mix of the availability to be receptive. So one thing I'd like to take away from this lesson is that when we have an undefined head or head and ajna, there is the potential for somnambulism, meaning they can be highly receptive. And that high receptivity could be literal, or if we're delivering it even with the inference, just to be sure they can receive it very quickly because of these centers having that emphasis to receive, especially the head center. It receives information, inspiration. So when that is undefined, which 70% of the population have an undefined head center, we have the opportunity for a highly receptive individual. The subconscious mind is more open as you have them relaxed into the session. Same goes with the emotional center. A person with an undefined emotional center, this one has an undefined emotional center, is an emotional empath, meaning their emotions, as you create an emotional resonant space for them that's positive, their emotional center can receive that somnambulistically, meaning they are open to receive emotional shifts. So I'm going to leave those to your contemplation. I would invite you to look up different charts and just imagine or contemplate whether they would be able to receive something very literally and direct, or if they need a little bit more buffering in the suggestion. I wonder if at this time you could be curious about your confidence. Each and every day you'll find it easier to call up your confidence inference. You are confident. And tomorrow you find yourself even more confident, literal. So let that simmer in your wondering about how we can speak the language of someone's subconscious mind, both by looking at their human design chart and how they're presenting that day. And we're going to take this information into a lesson and a journey on soul contracts. So just one more thing to remember, inference works generally. Doesn't mean we only use inference. Even in one session with a highly inferential person, they're going to have some literal input as well. But remember, inference is something that works more generally and can work even on a person who's highly literal. So let's get into how to put this into application. Soul contracts. I love working with soul contracts. So let's explore the idea of soul contracts in a way that can truly support your growth. You'll be able to take this for yourself, and then as you are a spiritual practitioner, a spiritual leader, you probably already will start thinking about how you can offer this to your clients. I'm going to deliver this to you as if it's directly for you for the rest of this lesson and for the journey that follows. So think of a soul contract not as a rigid, unchangeable script. It's a symbolic framework, and it is evergreen, it is malleable, it's collaborative. It represents lessons and themes that your soul is exploring in your lifetime, in your incarnation. It's definitely not about punishment, and it's not about fate. It's about potential. What the soul contract consideration is here to help us with is actually empower us with our inner authority. Because our soul, from the soul level or the higher self, is not it's a collaborative aspect. It's here to help us to feel empowered from this aspect of being a person, from the personal aspect, boots on the ground, I like to say it. So these contracts do not override your free will. It's collaborative. In fact, your authority, your inner authority, and your choice, your perspective, your frequency is what allows contracts to evolve, allows them to be collaborated upon with you and your soul. And that's actually how the contract is continuing to become updated all the time. So you're not here to serve the contract. The soul contract is here to serve your evolution. And the evolution is both personal and it is a soul evolution. So you see how it is a collaborative container. If something no longer aligns, that's a sign that growth is happening and that the soul contract is evolving. So as this fits into our lesson of the subconscious mind, well, when we have repeating beliefs and patterns, it sometimes is that repeating and limiting, I should say, beliefs and patterns, often we're noticing that the soul contract wants to be shifted. It's kind of like a reflection of the subconscious mind and the beliefs therein. The soul contract is like, good, we learned that lesson, or soul is saying, good, that's already check, but you're holding on to that belief in your subconscious mind. You're not collaborating on the evolution of it, so to speak, just to be a little bit literal and direct. So when something is no longer aligning, we can use this practice of reviewing a soul contract. And I have a beautiful journey that will help you to gently review a soul contract without needing to feel blame or abandonment of the self, and without even needing to have too much thinking going on about it. So sometimes the people that we are feeling the most tension with, or the parts of our life we're feeling the most tension with. So it could be a relationship, or it could be like the relationship you have with your career, for example, or something along those lines, or even your relationship with society, right? Sometimes those points of tension, they are really symbolic of the contract because they are activating us. I mean, this is kind of like duh, right? When we're activated by someone or something, it's something that we are learning from. But the activation isn't the same as oppression. Of course, it's a mirror. It's a mirror as to how we are learning to be more empowered. And so we do get to ask, what if this point of tension is showing me about what I'm ready to integrate, release, or reclaim within myself? And this allows us to be flexible, because soul contracts are flexible. They're not actually legal documents, even though we use that wording. I mean, even a legal document can be revisited, right, to be updated. It's more like an energetic agreement that shifts as we grow. just naturally shift as we grow. And we can do deep sessions as we're going to do in this today so that we can really upgrade them. And if you've learned a lesson or outgrown some kind of role in your life, the contract updates. You don't need to stay in a cycle or a theme of blaming or of suffering in order to fulfill something that your soul and you as a person have outgrown. So the language that really encourages reflection, self-reflection, and the learning. For example, what if we looked at this point of tension or pattern repetition as a turning point, not a trap, but a threshold? What might shift if we moved away from, why is this happening to me? Why does this keep happening? Why do I keep sabotaging myself? Why do I keep creating this? So either way, why is this happening to me is sort of like I'm a victim of circumstances, or why do I keep creating this is self-blaming. I'm a victim to myself. Either way, that's suffering. Why is this happening to me, or why am I creating this, is a good cue that we can look into how the soul wants to align us with a fresh aspect of the contract. So our integration practice that we can call an anchoring an inner choice. So as we are moving into this, we are going to have the consideration of meeting the higher self who signed the contract, the intermediary with one another. We can feel the wisdom, the growth, and the peace that's already come from lessons and that are shifting us into the new presentation of the soul contract. We can release outdated dynamics and reaffirm our current path with sovereignty that's felt on the personal level. We can say, I honor all the ways my soul has grown, all the ways I have personally grown. I release what no longer serves me. I stand in the power of my present choice. So what we're going to do with our journey that we're going to experience, I'll invite you to settle in here in a moment, is that the script that I actually use, I have it in your student portal, and it's a script outline. It's not really a script, it's a script outline, kind of just saying, here's the things that we move through in this soul contract journey. I don't want you to look at that now because we're about to move into the journey. I want you to do the journey first. But I gave you a script that is a script outline that is more general, especially in its languaging, because I want you to consider our lessons previous to this, that you can shape that to tailor it to the languaging of your client. As we head into this practice, you can pick a relationship of any kind, and I'll just tell you overall that the language is more inferential than it is literal, but there is some literal in there as well. I don't want you to think about that now. I want you can sort of contemplate and analyze that later. I want you to just do this. I want you to receive this work, this journey. So as we head into practice, you can pick a situation or a relationship that you would like to review the soul contract of. Make it easy, or make it fun, or make it light. Make it whatever will serve you. So we're going to head into that. I'm going to actually put in here just a 5-minute break with some music in the background. And then when you hear the slate, which sounds like this, you know that slate? That will mean it's time to come and settle in. And of course, you will hear me. So take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes to go get some tea, but we're going to head right into the journey afterward, okay?